News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. And you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you to retire the job and keep the paycheck. With me, of course, this morning is Mr. Brice Payne. Hey, Brice, what's going on, man?
Doug, everything's going on. Having a wonderful summer so far. We're now finally getting into the heat of things. And this is yours and my first time back doing the show since our 4th of July break. And I know last week Garrett and I were talking about what we did on 4th of July, but you did some fun things as well. So share that with us. What did you do?
Well, we did. We went out to Colorado. My younger son and his family live out there in the Denver area, so we went to visit them. And I can understand why you and Adam love Colorado so much. I mean, 90 degrees, but it didn't feel hot, you know. And then even in the shade, it was kind of cool. But yeah, we did a train ride through a mining town up there. Had lunch and did a lot of stuff with the kids and Adam and Jessica. So we had a great time.
Yeah. But you weren't out there too long.
About 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. So quick trip.
It was.
Same time that I was out there. So it's funny, Doug and I work here in the office day after day, and then when we go on a break, we go out to the same city. So I was in Denver at the same time, or Boulder in the same time that you were, and Doug and I both got stuck in the same storm a little bit. Of course, I was outside, but you were inside.
Yeah, we were, yeah.
And got hit by some hail at Red Rocks there. But yeah, I always love Colorado. Always love it. All right, Doug. Well, let's go ahead and do our Wealth Guardian service salute.
Absolutely.
You go ahead and do it this time. I always do it.
All right. So obviously, we like to do this every show. We want to say thank you to all of our service members, our veterans, and our first responders, because you really do pull a heavy load, and thank you so much for doing what you do,
and to the families as well, because it's a sacrifice on your end as well.
It is.
All right, Doug, what are we talking about here this episode?
Well, we're going to study. It's kind of counterintuitive. Why would you not invest in a 401k?
I love it. I love going down these channels of counterintuitive thinking. So don't want to get us wrong, please. In many cases, your 401k is going to be your best investment vehicle, obviously. They offer numerous benefits and tax advantages. And sometimes when the employer is matching what your contribution, that equals 100% return on those contributions. But it is important to recognize that it might not always be the optimal choice for absolutely everyone. So I want you to join us in this thought-provoking episode as we dissect the reasons why someone might not invest in a 401k. And Doug, the first one we've got in the first reason that we've got here is, you don't have an emergency fund built up yet.
Yeah, we're big believers in emergency funds. I think Dave Ramsey, he calls it baby step number one. You want to have some money sitting aside. Rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, so that if that emergency ever pops up, or God forbid, if you get laid off, you got a fallback. I keep hearing some statistics that just are mind-boggling to me, like half of Americans can't meet a $500 emergency or something like that. That seems unreal.
Yeah, it's a scary statistic for sure. Yep. So the reason that you want to have that is because if you're contributing to your 401k and suddenly there's an emergency that pops up, there are tax consequences for taking money out of a 401k. And even in those events when you can take out a loan, that's not always the ideal thing to do. And your money needs to be available right then and there. And even if there is no tax consequence or you do have the loan option, sometimes selling your investments at the wrong time, that's not ideal.
Nope,
so you have those emergency funds just sitting in the bank for you. So that's rule number one, as you said. Now, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray and Brice Payne, and we are talking about why one would not invest in a 401k. And hear us out on this. There are some legitimate reasons for this. And Doug, number two that we're going to go into is your employer doesn't match contributions.
Yeah, that's free money, a match is. So obviously you'd want to contribute up to that. But if the employer doesn't, which again, that's kind of mind-boggling that they wouldn't, because it's in their best interest so that they can actually contribute more to their 401k, because there are certain rules and regulations that they have to follow. But if there's no match, then why not invest your funds somewhere else?
Yeah.
Where you have a lot more opportunities and a lot more things to invest in than a 401k.
Keep in mind, if you're not familiar with 401ks out there and what their limitations are, 401k will generally offer you anywhere from 10 to 20 or so investment options. Usually most all of them will be mutual funds, maybe with a money market or some kind of fixed income fund in there. But there's literally hundreds of thousands of investments out there in the open market that your 401k is not allowing you to invest in. So if your employer's not giving you a match, well, maybe you move over to your IRA as your step number one and throw in the contributions there where you do have all the investment options available to you.
Yep.
Next one, Doug. If you're swimming in debt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you're loaded up with debt, you're going to start attacking that too and getting that down because, I mean, if you've got credit cards that are 18, 19% interest, I mean, think of it this way. As you pay that down, that's almost a guaranteed 18, 19% return on your money.
That's right.
So knock that out first.
That's the way you need to look at it. You're absolutely right.
We sound like Dave Ramsey.
Well,
really do.
He makes a lot of sense, and I like to think that we make a lot of sense, and it's all things money related. So yeah, we kind of harmonize with good old Dave there once in a while. Now, speaking of swimming in debt, if you would rather swim in Social Security income rather than debt, then Doug and I have good news for you. We are doing our semi-annual Social Security optimization seminar. We only do this a couple of times a year, and you're in good position now if you're ready to file for Social Security, or that's coming down the pipeline in the next couple of years. Maybe you're about to be eligible and you're not sure what to do. File now, file later, file for spousal benefits, whatever. Well, keep these dates in mind. Thursday, July 27th and Tuesday, August 1st. There is no cost, there never is, and there is no obligation, there never is, to sit in on one of our seminars, but you do have to register with us so that we know that you're coming and that we've got a seat set aside for you. The easiest way to register is to give Lynn or Joy a call at 336-391-3409. That number again is 336-391-3409. Our Social Security Optimization Seminar, Thursday, July 27th, Tuesday, August 1st, 6:30 p.m. You can also register by going to our website, thewealthguardians.com, and hit the Media Center tab. And you might ask, well, where is this? Where is this Social Security Optimization Seminar that Brice and Doug are talking about? Well, our offices are located in the Broyhill Annex in Clemens, on Clemens Road, underneath the water tower. Look for the giant water tower, and we're right under that. That's where you would go to attend our seminar. Also, if you go to our website, again, thewealthguardians.com, you can download our 4 Critical Social Security Facts Report, which is 4 important facts about Social Security that every retiree should know. Again, thewealthguardians.com, no cost or obligation to attend the seminar, and no cost or obligation for downloading that Social Security report. If you are thinking about filing for Social Security in the next coming years, I promise you, you will walk away from this seminar with a lot of good information. All right, Doug, let's go ahead and get back to it here. The next one we want to talk about is if you're worried about future tax increases.
Good point. You know, many, many moons ago when I first got into this business, it was quite common philosophy in our practice that we always thought that your tax rates and taxes would go down in retirement because you're not working, not earning an income anymore. But things have changed quite dramatically over the last several years, and our debt load has skyrocketed. You know, it's a funny thing. In all the workshops that we do, I like to ask the audience, do you think taxes will be higher in the future?
100% of the hands go up.
100%, absolutely. And, you know, in that case, if you think taxes are going to be higher when you're in retirement, you know, distributions coming out of that 401k are going to be taxed at a higher rate. So maybe it might make sense for you to do Roth contributions and Roth conversions now so that you can have a tax-free pot of income in your retirement.
That bucket of money that you put into a Roth or convert to a Roth, absolutely immune to any tax law changes that at least the way the tax laws are built now,
Yeah.
absolutely immune. So if the government does go ahead and raise taxes in the future, you can look at your bucket of Roth money there and say, I'm so glad Doug and Brice suggested to us years ago that we put as much money into the Roth as we could. Now, that's going to depend on your situation, so don't go doing that yet. Talk to a financial advisor. But if the tax laws do change and taxes go up, you're going to be very happy that you had a large bucket of money in your Roth.
Yeah, Brice, and also Roth distributions do not go imply to taxation of your Social Security.
Your provisional income.
Yep.
Absolutely correct. All right, Doug. Well, I think we're going to be running out of time here in just a moment for our first segment. So before we do that, what time is it, Doug?
Trivia time.
It's time for trivia. All right, brace yourself. Doug, on July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 lands on the moon with Commander Neil Armstrong, Command Module Pilot Michael Collins, and Lunar Module Pilot Buzz Aldrin. 650 million people watched Neil take the first steps and utter his famous, though disputed, quote, "One small step for a man, one small step for a man," however he said it. And they watched the American flag, made by Sears, not China, get staked on the moon. And of course, they watched this massive feat get accomplished by a machine with a computer less powerful than the smartwatches that we have on right now, Doug.
Yeah.
Here's the question. What is Buzz's first name?
Ah, okay.
All right. Stick around for the answer to that trivia question and see if we stumped Doug. I suspect we didn't. On this side of the short break, this is Brice Payne. With me is Doug Ray. The show's The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to The Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne along with Doug Ray. In this second segment this morning, we're going to be talking about winning your financial independence. Now, before we get to our trivia question, I've got two questions for you. Are you looking forward to your retirement? I know that you are. Do you want to make sure that you're making the best financial decisions for your retirement? I'm sure that you do. So you answered yes to both of those questions, then I've got great news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians, Doug, Garrett, and myself, we offer a no-cost, no-obligation second opinion/review of your retirement plan, including a deep analysis of your assets, your investment portfolio, your insurance policies, your income needs, your risk tolerance, your risk exposure, tax mitigation strategies, legacy goals, and the fees that you're currently paying. Our goal is simple. We just want to help you lower your fees, align your risk, and improve your overall retirement picture so you can indeed retire the job and keep the paycheck. But the ball is in your court. You have to give us a call. So here's how you do that. You pick up the phone and you dial these numbers in this order. 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Give us a call or visit us at thewealthguardians.com to set up your financial plan review with Doug, Garrett, and myself today. Remember, the markets are not going to wait for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started on this trivia question. Doug, you ready?
I try to be.
Here we go. I'm going to repeat the whole thing again. On July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 lands on the moon with Neil Armstrong. He's the commander. Michael Collins, he's the command module pilot, and Buzz Aldrin, he's the lunar module pilot. 650 million people around the globe watched Neil take the first steps and utter his famous, though disputed, quote, "One small step for a man." You know, he claims that he says one small step for a man. I believe him, but people heard one small step for man, which wouldn't make sense. So they watched the American flag, which was made by Sears, not China in this instance, get staked. And they watched this massive feat get accomplished by a machine with a computer less advanced or less powerful than today's smartwatch. So here's the question, Doug. What is Buzz's first name?
Well, you know, speaking of smartwatches, even the Navy planes I flew in the 80s, that phone you're about to buzz me with is probably 1,000 times more powerful than the computers we had in our plane. In
Wow.
fact, our inertial navigation machine was made by the Singer's Sewing Machine Company.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
they were the low bid manufacturer.
Oh, yeah. Don't you love being in a plane that's always made by all parts composed by the lowest bidder?
The Martin Baker ejection seat, low bid.
You're stalling.
Yeah, I am. It's a funny first name. I've seen it before. I'm having a hard time remembering. I think it's like Edwin or something.
You got it. And Garrett got it as well.
Oh, okay.
But here's the question for you. If I had made the trivia question, what was the third person's name? Would you have gotten that?
Probably not.
Yeah, I think I'd asked that before, and that's Michael Collins, but everyone beats up on him with that trivia question,
Yeah.
so I left that one alone. But here's an interesting fact that I learned. So the lunar module was named the Eagle, hence the Eagle has landed. And we obviously know where that came from because our national bird is the eagle. But the command module, the one that just flew around the moon the whole time, was called the Columbiad. Do you have any idea where we got the name for the Columbiad?
No, I don't.
I didn't either. In 1865, Jules Verne wrote a book called From the Earth to the Moon.
I remember reading that.
And the space cannon that shot the module to the moon was called the Columbiad. So that's why they named the module itself
How
the
about
Columbiad.
that? Now, that's a
after.
good piece of trivia.
There you go. Right. But I knew you wouldn't have gotten that one, nor would I. So got to be fair. All right, Doug. So we're going to talk about winning your financial independence. It's July. We didn't get to this on July 4th, but it's still the month of July when we celebrate our independence. So let's go ahead and talk here about unveiling the common foes that we're going to face on the journey to our own financial independence. And of course, good news, no muskets required here, no battles that we'll be battling here. First one, Doug, is independence from government. There's a couple of different things that we can do or that we want to at least liberate ourselves from when it comes to government. First one, not relying on nursing home care.
Yeah, what you're doing there, if it's government sponsored, you're talking Medicaid.
Yes.
And Medicaid, there's a lot of hurdles.
Yep.
To get through, financial hurdles. You've got to appear broke. There's some things you can talk to attorneys about doing to help shield, especially if you've got a at-home well spouse, you can shield some of your assets from. But then once you do that, then getting a bed in a Medicaid facility may not be, your best choice. I've been in some of those facilities and quite honestly, I certainly wouldn't want to be in one of them.
Exactly. That's all right. So, yeah, you want to have independence from basically anything government, but that's one of them. You don't want to assume that Medicare is going to cover all your medical expenses, and you got to prepare for that sometimes.
Well, I can vouch for that myself.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardian Show with Doug Ray, and we are talking about winning your financial independence and things that you need to do, planning for retirement so that you're not dependent on others. So that was independence from the government. Let's move on now and talk about independence from family, Doug.
Yeah, how many of you out there want to go live with your children in retirement, or have to take a handout from them? I don't think anybody wants to do that. But, that means you got to prepare. You got to get ready for retirement so that if you live well into your 90s, you still are independent, at least financially.
Right.
You may end up having to use that long-term care policy I hope you've bought, or at least one of these hybrid life insurance policies where you can use the death benefit if you need to for long-term care, home health care. But, being independent, everybody wants to be independent.
And you don't want to put that burden on your family as well. You want the independence for yourself, but you raised your kids so that they could go out into the world, and the last thing that you want is for them to have to come back to the roost and take care of you. And one common mistake that we'll see people make out of the goodness of their hearts is they want to contribute to their kids' 529 accounts or pay for their kids' weddings or whatnot. Please make sure that you have got your own retirement portfolio in order before you start putting the money out there elsewhere. Your kids would rather fund their own college accounts or their own college debt or their weddings or those other big expenses on their end before taking care of you. So you take care of yourself, and then if you've got leftover money, great. But if you don't, then...
Yeah, Brice, another point I want to make on this is too many people think this this idea of having to be taken care of in retirement, it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
There's something called a normalcy bias, and you're well and healthy right now in your 60s. What about in your 80s? We are living longer, and the longer we live, you got to admit, the frailer we're going to get.
That's absolutely true, Doug. Good point. Good point on that. So if you do want independence from your family, there's something else that you can do. You can make sure that you have used the best Social Security filing strategy available to you. Doug, you know as well as I do that there are thousands of ways to file for Social Security, and only a few of those 1,000 ways make the most sense for you. So we implore you to come down to our Social Security Optimization Seminar. We put this on a couple times a year. We're putting it on Thursday, July 27th. Look at your calendar right now. Remember that date. And Tuesday, August 1st. One or the other. You just come to one of them. There's no cost or no obligation to attend to this, but Doug and I are certified with the National Social Security Association, and we will help you figure out all the different nuances that goes into filing for Social Security, all the different things that you need to consider and think about. No cost, no obligation, but you do have to register 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. If you're approaching retirement and you're wondering, do I file for Social Security now? Do I file for it later? Do I file off my own benefits first or off of my spouse's benefits first? There's a lot of questions to ask, and it gets complicated, quite honestly. We've seen, Doug, some people make some huge mistakes when it comes to filing Social Security.
Amazing.
If you're listening to us, I don't want you to be one of those people, because you can't undo those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, we'll tell you a story about $100,000 mistake.
$100,000 mistake. Yep. So again, wealthguardians.com. You can hit our event tab, but if you also click on the Media Center tab, you can download our 4 critical Social Security facts report called 4 Important Facts About Social Security Every Retiree Should Know. No cost or obligation for that either. I think we actually got room for one more on top of that. Independence from creditors. Doug, how do we...
Boy, I'll tell you, Brice, the thousands of retirement plans we've done over the years, you and I both know that if you go into retirement with no debt, I mean, you have set yourself up to have a golden retirement. On the other hand, if you go into retirement with a huge mortgage, a lot of credit card debt, automobile debt, that is going to hurt you.
That's a hurdle.
It is a big hurdle. And with inflation now, it's even impacting it even more. So, yeah, work at paying off your debt before you go into retirement. That's a biggie.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Speaking of good ideas, I want you to keep in mind that you can always tune into the video broadcast of this episode on our YouTube channel. You might not have known that we have a YouTube channel. You might not have been aware that we video record these episodes that you're listening to right now. Just go to YouTube and go to the Wealth Guardians channel to see our studio and our investment quote of the weeks right up here, but you got to tune in to see that. You can also catch our most recent episode of our Vault video series, where we break down individual topics on all things pertaining to retirement planning. Well, Doug, anything you want to add here before we got to sign off?
Well, not really, other than I think it's a neat idea if they do get on the YouTube channel and look at our studio. We've done a nice decorating job in here. I've got my pirate up here and my master's gnomes, and you've got some football helmets and your Havana rum. Havana
rum that you got me from a couple of years ago. Still haven't cracked that bottle open yet. I'm saving it for the right time. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have this week. We want to thank you for joining us as always. We hope the rest of your weekend is everything you want it to be. This is Brice Payne along with Doug Ray. The show is the Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And remember, sound financial plans do not create themselves. This is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. This is 96.7 FM, WTOB.